The galaxy was vast, cold, and indifferent. Among its countless stars, Earth had always been a footnote, a small, insignificant planet struggling to survive. Centuries of environmental collapse, wars, and overpopulation had left humanity on the brink of extinction. The once blue planet now resembled a patchwork of scars, with crumbling cities and barren wastelands. But even in their darkest hour, humans clung to hope. And sometimes hope came wrapped in secrets buried deep beneath the ice. It all began in Antarctica, a place so remote that only scientists dared to venture there. Dr. Elena Voss, a brilliant but stubborn astrophysicist, led a team of researchers studying ancient glacial movements. They were searching for answers about Earth's past when they stumbled upon something extraordinary. Buried miles below the frozen surface was an object unlike anything anyone had ever seen. It wasn't natural, it was alien. At first glance, the artifact looked like a massive black sphere, smooth and cold to the touch. But when the team activated it using advanced scanning technology, the sphere unfolded into a holographic map. The map displayed not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. Lines connected stars and planets, forming routes and networks. In the center of the projection floated a single word written in glowing symbols no one could decipher. Dr. Voss knew immediately this wasn't just some random piece of alien junk. This was a message, and it was meant for humanity. Back at the United Earth Council headquarters, tensions were high. For decades, Earth had tried to stay out of galactic politics. Humanity wasn't ready to face the powerful empires that ruled the stars. Most aliens saw humans as weak and primitive, barely capable of surviving on their own planet, let alone venturing into space. But now, everything had changed. Elena stood before the council, her voice steady despite the weight of what she was about to say. This artifact, she explained, holding up a tablet displaying images of the sphere, contains detailed plans for building a battleship. Not just any battleship, a weapon unlike anything we've ever imagined. The room erupted into murmurs. Some council members leaned forward, intrigued by the possibilities. Others frowned, clearly uneasy. Senator Harlow, a grizzled politician known for his caution, raised his hand to silence the chatter. "And you're telling us this because we don't have a choice," Elena replied. Her tone softened slightly. The artifact also contains warnings. There's a threat coming, something called the Vorath. They're described as a swarm-like species that consumes entire star systems. If these plans are real, we'll need the battleship to defend ourselves. Senator Harlow rubbed his temples. "Let me get this straight. You want us to build a weapon powerful enough to scare off gods know what, knowing full well it might attract attention from every empire out there? Do you realize how dangerous that is?" Elena didn't flinch. "Yes, I do. But doing nothing is even more dangerous. If the Vorath are real, we won't stand a chance without the battleship. We can't rely on anyone else to save us." The debate dragged on for hours, with arguments flying back and forth. Finally, after much deliberation, the council agreed to move forward, but under strict secrecy. The project would be classified, known only to a handful of trusted individuals. Construction would take place in orbit around Earth, far from prying eyes. And above all, no one outside the team could know about the battleship until it was ready. Months passed and work on the battleship, codenamed the Leviathan, began. It was a monumental task, requiring resources Earth barely had. Scrap metal from old satellites, rare minerals mined from asteroids, and cutting-edge engineering techniques were all poured into the project. Every day brought new challenges, but the team refused to give up. They worked tirelessly, driven by the knowledge that failure wasn't an option. Captain Marcus Kane watched the progress from a distance. A decorated military officer with a reputation for getting results, he'd been chosen to lead the crew of the Leviathan once it was completed. At first, he wasn't sure why he'd been picked. He wasn't a scientist or an engineer. He was just a soldier. But as he observed the dedication of the construction team, he started to understand. This wasn't just about building a ship. It was about proving that humanity still had fight left in it. One evening, as Marcus walked through the orbital facility, he found himself face to face with Dr. Voss. She was staring out a window at the half-finished hull of the Leviathan, her expression unreadable. "You think we're doing the right thing?" she asked without looking at him. Marcus hesitated. "Does it matter? Right or wrong, we don't have a choice." Elena turned to him, her eyes sharp. "That's not true. We always have a choice. But if we fail..." She trailed off, shaking her head. "If we fail, the galaxy will never forgive us." Before Marcus could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed as technicians scrambled to contain whatever emergency had occurred. Moments later, a panicked voice crackled over the intercom. "Unauthorized vessel detected entering Earth's atmosphere. Repeat, unauthorized vessel detected." The news spread quickly. A rogue trader ship had slipped past Earth's defenses, carrying stolen data about the Leviathan. Someone inside the project had betrayed them. Panic rippled through the team as they realized their secret was no longer safe. Within hours, whispers of Earth's mysterious battleship reached the ears of neighboring star systems. Some reacted with curiosity, others with fear. The Xylothian Empire, ruled by the ruthless Admiral Rinthar, issued a stern warning. Earth has crossed a line. Their actions will not go unpunished. But before anyone could act, another threat emerged. One, far greater than anyone had anticipated. Scans revealed a fleet of unknown origin entering the Milky Way. Ships dark as shadows moved with eerie precision, consuming everything in their path. The Vorath had arrived. As chaos engulfed the galaxy, the Leviathan neared completion. Its sleek, design-inspired awe, while its arsenal promised devastation. When the first wave of Vorath ships approached Earth, humanity held its breath. Could their creation live up to its promise? The answer came swiftly. In a dazzling display of firepower, the Leviathan obliterated the invaders, scattering their remains across the void. Cheers erupted across Earth as news of the victory spread. For the first time in centuries, humanity felt a flicker of pride. But the celebration was short-lived. The Vorath weren't done. And now, thanks to the Leviathan, Earth had become the most feared and targeted planet in the galaxy. The galaxy was a powder keg, and humanity had lit the fuse. The Leviathan's existence had shattered the fragile balance of power that had existed for centuries. Empires once content to ignore Earth now saw it as either an ally or a threat. There was no middle ground. And as the Vorath continued their relentless advance, the lines between friend and foe blurred further. Captain Marcus Kane stood on the bridge of the Leviathan, staring at the tactical display. It showed a fractured map of the Milky Way, red dots representing hostile forces, green ones marking tentative allies, and yellow symbols indicating neutral parties caught in the crossfire. Humanity's position was precarious, surrounded by enemies on all sides. Yet despite the odds, Kane felt a strange sense of resolve. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about proving that Earth could stand tall among the stars. A rising tideword of the Leviathan's triumph against the Vorath vanguard spread quickly, igniting rebellions across the galaxy. Oppressed colonies rose up against their imperial overlords, inspired by Earth's defiance. On one side of the galaxy, miners on Zyran-controlled worlds declared independence, refusing to send resources to fuel the Empire's war machine. On Dali, another slaves from the Xylothian territories staged daring escapes, seeking refuge aboard smugglers' ships bound for Earth. Ambassador Kaelnor returned to the Leviathan with news of these uprisings. "Your battleship has become a symbol," he told Kane during a private meeting. "To many you represent hope, a chance to break free from tyranny." Kane frowned. "Hope won't save them when the Empires crush these revolts. We can't protect everyone." "No," Kaelnor agreed, "but we can strike where it hurts most. The Xylothians are stretched thin trying to maintain control. If we hit their supply lines, they'll be forced to retreat or negotiate." Though reluctant, Kane knew Kaelnor had a point. Earth couldn't afford to fight on multiple fronts. A strategic offensive might buy them time and allies. The mercenary fleet as tensions escalated, the Leviathan received unexpected reinforcements. Rogue mercenaries, pirates, and even defectors from rival factions began flocking to Earth's banner. These newcomers were drawn not by loyalty but by opportunity. Some sought riches, others revenge, and a few genuinely believed in humanity's cause. Among the arrivals was Captain Rhea Solis, a notorious pirate-turned-privateer known as the Shadow Blade. Her sleek frigate, the Night Stalker, docked alongside the Leviathan, its hull scarred from countless battles. Solis herself was a striking figure, tall and lean, with cybernetic implants glinting beneath her dark hair. "You're late," Kane said dryly when she stepped onto the bridge. Solis smirked. "Better late than dead. Besides, I brought friends." She gestured toward the viewport where dozens of ships, ranging from battered fighters to heavily armed cruisers, formed a ragtag fleet behind hers. Kane raised an eyebrow. "And why should I trust you?" "Because," Solis replied, her tone turning serious, "the alternative is letting the Vorath turn this galaxy into dust. You may not like me, Captain, but we both want the same thing: to survive." Reluctantly, Kane accepted her offer. With the addition of the mercenary fleet, Earth's forces doubled in size. But integrating such a diverse group of warriors proved challenging. Factions clashed over resources, strategies, and leadership. Lieutenant Zara Lynn worked tirelessly to mediate disputes, earning respect from even the most hardened veterans. Betrayal. Despite outward progress, cracks began forming within Earth's ranks. Suspicion lingered after the assassination attempt on Dr. Voss, and paranoia grew as whispers of spies reached fever pitch. Then came the devastating blow. During a routine patrol near the edge of Xylothian territory, one of the newly arrived ships suddenly turned rogue. It transmitted Earth's coordinates to Admiral Rinthar before self-destructing, taking its crew with it. Moments later, the Xylothian armada emerged from hyperspace, launching a surprise attack on Earth's orbital defenses. Caught off guard, the Leviathan scrambled to respond. Explosions rocked the station, sending debris spiraling into space. Crew members fought valiantly to repel the invaders, but the sheer scale of the assault overwhelmed them. In the chaos, Dr. Voss narrowly escaped capture, thanks to Lieutenant Lynn's quick thinking. When the dust settled, the damage was catastrophic. Earth's orbital facilities lay in ruins, and thousands of lives had been lost. Worse still, the betrayal revealed how deeply infiltrated their ranks were. Someone close to the project had sold them out, not for money but for revenge. The breaking point. In the aftermath of the attack, tensions reached a breaking point. Senator Harlow demanded answers, accusing Kane of incompetence. "How could this happen?" he shouted during an emergency council meeting. "We trusted you to lead us, and now look what's happened." Kane clenched his fists, struggling to keep his composure. "If you think blaming me will fix anything, you're wrong. What we need is action, not infighting." But the senator wasn't finished. "Action? Your reckless decisions have made us targets. Maybe it's time someone else took command." Before Kane could respond, Lieutenant Lynn stepped forward. Her voice was calm but firm. "With all due respect, Senator, Captain Kane isn't the problem. The real issue is trust, or lack thereof. If we don't unite, we'll lose everything." Her words silenced the room. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, slowly, heads began nodding in agreement. Even Harlow relented, though reluctantly. The turning tide with Earth's defenses crippled, the coalition rallied around the Leviathan. Using salvaged materials and alien tech, the crew worked around the clock to repair the damage. Meanwhile, Captain Solis led reconnaissance missions deep into Xylothian territory, gathering intelligence on their movements. Their efforts paid off when they discovered a critical weakness: a massive supply depot hidden within an asteroid field. Without it, the Xylothian fleet would struggle to sustain prolonged campaigns. Kane devised a bold plan. Under cover of darkness, the Leviathan and its makeshift fleet launched a daring raid on the depot. The battle was fierce, with both sides suffering heavy losses. But in the end, humanity emerged victorious. The destruction of the depot dealt a crippling blow to the Xylothians, forcing them to withdraw temporarily. a costly victory. The victory boosted morale, but it came at a steep price. Many ships were lost and countless lives sacrificed. Among the fallen was Lieutenant Lin, who gave her life to ensure the mission's success. As the Leviathan limped back to Earth, Kane carried her memory with him, vowing never to forget her sacrifice. When the fleet returned, the galaxy watched in awe. Earth had proven itself not just as a survivor, but as a contender. Allies flocked to its banner while enemies hesitated to strike again. But even as celebrations erupted across the planet, Kane knew the worst was yet to come. Reports indicated the Vorath were amassing a colossal fleet, far larger than anything seen before. Their target was clear: Earth. Standing on the bridge, Kane gazed at the stars. The road ahead would be long and bloody, but one thing was certain. Humanity had found its place among the stars, and it wouldn't back down without a fight. The destruction of the Vorath Vanguard fleet was a moment that would go down in history. For the first time in centuries, humanity had struck back, not with desperation, but with overwhelming force. The Leviathan's weapons lit up the void, like fireworks, tearing through the shadowy ships of the invaders as if they were made of paper. When the battle ended, Earth's orbital defenses stood intact, and the galaxy watched in stunned silence. But victory came at a cost. The appearance of the Leviathan had shattered humanity's fragile anonymity. No longer could Earth pretend to be a weak, irrelevant world. Now it was thrust into the spotlight, its every move scrutinized by empires far older and more powerful than itself. And while some saw hope in Earth's newfound strength, others saw only danger. Captain Marcus Kane sat alone in his quarters aboard the Leviathan, staring at a holographic projection of the recent battle. The ship's AI, designated Echo, hummed softly in the background, analyzing data from the engagement. Despite the success, Kane couldn't shake the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He wasn't just commanding a battleship, he was leading humanity into uncharted territory. "Captain," Echo's calm voice broke the silence. "Incoming transmission from United Earth Council." Kane sighed and straightened in his chair. "Patch it through." The face of Senator Harlow appeared on the screen, his expression grim. "Congratulations are in order, Captain. You've made us proud, but now comes the hard part. We're receiving messages from dozens of alien factions. Some want alliances, others, well, let's just say they're less friendly. Prepare for diplomacy and potential conflict." Before Kane could respond, another alert flashed across his console. This time it wasn't from Earth, it was an external transmission, encoded but unmistakably alien. "Sir," Echo said, "this is unprecedented. The signal originates from the Xylothian Empire." Kane's jaw tightened. Admiral Reinthar, ruler of the Xylothians, was not someone to take lightly. Known for their militaristic expansion and ruthless efficiency, the Xylothians viewed weaker species as either tools or threats. Humanity's sudden display of power likely fell into the latter category. "Decode it," Kane ordered. Moments later, the image of Admiral Reinthar filled the screen. His reptilian features were sharp and imposing, his golden eyes gleaming with cold intelligence. Behind him loomed a massive warship, its sleek design radiating menace. "Humans," Reinthar began, his voice deep and commanding, "your actions have disturbed the balance of the galaxy. The creation of such a weapon without consulting the established powers is reckless and provocative. Surrender your battleship, or face the consequences." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving Kane seething. Surrender? After everything they'd sacrificed to build the Leviathan, not a chance. Yet even as anger surged within him, Kane knew Rinthar's words carried truth. Humanity had stepped onto a stage where mistakes weren't forgiven. They were punished. The question was whether Earth could navigate this minefield without collapsing under the pressure. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Zara Lin stood on the observation deck of the Leviathan, gazing out at the stars. Her mind raced with thoughts of her past. Born on a distant colony world, she had been taken as a child by slavers and sold to one of the galaxy's wealthiest families. Years later, she escaped, but the scars remained. both physical and emotional. Now, as part of the Leviathan's crew, she found herself closer than ever to uncovering the truth about her origins. Her musings were interrupted by Dr. Elena Voss, who approached with a datapad in hand. "Lieutenant, I need you to review these specs," Elena said, handing over the device. "We're integrating alien technology scavenged from rogue traders. If we can adapt it, we might be able to enhance our shields." Zara nodded, accepting the task. As she scrolled through the schematics, something caught her eye. A symbol etched into one of the components. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but she recognized it instantly. It matched the markings on the artifact that had sparked the entire project. "Dr. Voss," Zara said slowly, pointing to the symbol. "Where did this piece come from?" Elena frowned, leaning closer. "That's strange. It shouldn't have those markings. That tech was supposed to be salvaged from pirates, not tied to the artifact." A chill ran down Zara's spine. She didn't know what it meant, but one thing was certain. Someone out there knew more about the Leviathan and its origins than they were letting on. As days turned into weeks, the galaxy reacted to Earth's emergence. News of the Leviathan spread like wildfire, sparking debates and protests across countless worlds. On some planets, humans were hailed as heroes, saviors who dared to stand against tyranny. On others, they were vilified as warmongers, their battleship seen as a harbinger of doom. Diplomatic envoys began arriving at Earth's borders, seeking audiences with the Council. Among them was Ambassador Kale Nor, a representative of the Siren Collective, a loose alliance of smaller species resisting Xylothian domination. Tall and slender, with shimmering blue skin, Kale Nor exuded an air of quiet confidence. "We wish to ally ourselves with Earth," Kale Nor declared during a tense meeting aboard the Leviathan. "Your actions have inspired many who suffer under Imperial rule. Together we can challenge the status quo." Senator Harlow listened intently, his expression unreadable. "And what do you propose we do? Declare war on the Xylothians?" "No," Kale Nor replied firmly. "But unity is strength. With your battleship and our resources, we can protect those unable to defend themselves." The offer was tempting, but Kane couldn't ignore the risks. Allying with the Zyran Collective would make Earth a target for retaliation. Still, turning away potential allies felt equally dangerous. The decision weighed heavily on everyone involved. Amidst the chaos, whispers of betrayal reached the Leviathan's crew. Someone within the project had leaked classified information to the Xylothians, revealing weaknesses in Earth's defenses. Suspicion fell on several individuals, including key engineers and even members of the Council. Trust grew thin, and paranoia spread like a virus. Then came the assassination attempt. It happened late at night during a routine inspection of the Leviathan's reactor core. An explosion rocked the lower decks, sending shockwaves through the ship. Dr. Voss narrowly escaped injury, thanks to quick thinking by Lieutenant Lin, who pulled her to safety moments before debris collapsed the corridor behind them. When the dust settled, investigators discovered traces of explosives laced with advanced alien tech. Whoever was behind the attack hadn't acted alone. They had help from outside forces. "This isn't just sabotage," Kane growled during an emergency briefing. "This is a declaration of war." Despite the mounting threats, life aboard the Leviathan continued. Crew members trained tirelessly, preparing for whatever lay ahead. New recruits arrived daily, drawn by tales of glory and adventure. Among them were mercenaries, scientists, and even defectors from rival empires, all eager to join Earth's cause. One evening, Kane gathered his senior officers in the command center. The mood was somber as he addressed them. "The galaxy is watching us," he said, his voice steady. "Every move we make will define not just our future, but the future of billions. We can't afford to falter." Lieutenant Lin stepped forward, her expression resolute. "Then we fight, not just for Earth, but for everyone who believes in freedom." Her words resonated deeply. For the first time since the project began, the crew felt united, not just as soldiers but as pioneers charting a new path among the stars. But unity alone wouldn't be enough. Reports indicated the Vorath were regrouping, amassing a fleet larger than anything humanity had faced before. Time was running out. As the Leviathan prepared for its next mission, Kane couldn't help but wonder, was humanity ready to face the storm gathering on the horizon? Or would their brightest moment become their darkest downfall? The galaxy was on fire. The Vorath fleet loomed larger than ever, a dark storm cloud swallowing stars whole as it advanced toward Earth. Every species, from the mighty Xylothians to the scattered remnants of rebel colonies, knew that this was humanity's final stand. But even amidst unity, cracks began to form. Trust, once fragile, now shattered entirely. Captain Marcus Kane sat alone in his quarters aboard the Leviathan, staring at a holographic map of the galaxy. Lines of red marked the Vorath's inexorable march, while green dots represented Earth's dwindling allies. The coalition had grown stronger since the destruction of the Xylothian supply depot, but losses were mounting faster than reinforcements could arrive. Resources were running low, morale was wavering, and whispers of betrayal echoed through the corridors of the ship. Internal strife tensions aboard the Leviathan reached a boiling point. With Lieutenant Zara Lynn gone, her absence left a void no one could fill. Her calm demeanor and unwavering loyalty had been the glue holding the crew together. Now arguments erupted daily between factions within the makeshift fleet. Mercenaries accused Earth's soldiers of hoarding supplies, while defectors from alien empires questioned Kane's leadership. Senator Harlow, still reeling from the orbital attack, demanded stricter control over operations. "We can't afford mistakes," he said during a tense meeting. "Every decision must go through the council." Kane slammed his fist on the table. "If we wait for approval every time we need to act, we'll lose everything. You wanted me to lead this mission. I'm doing exactly that. And look where it's gotten us," Harlow shot back. "Half our fleet is destroyed and the other half is barely holding together." Before the argument could escalate further, Dr. Elena Voss interjected. Her voice was quiet but firm. "Fighting among ourselves won't stop the Vorath. If we want to survive, we need to focus on what matters, protecting Earth." Her words silenced the room, but only temporarily. The rift between military and political leadership deepened, threatening to tear the coalition apart. A traitor revealed, amidst the chaos, intelligence reports uncovered a chilling truth. Someone within the project, a trusted member of the team, had been leaking information to the Vorath. Data logs revealed encrypted transmissions sent directly to the swarm-like invaders. Suspicion fell on several individuals, including key engineers and even members of the council. Kane ordered a full investigation, led by Captain Rhea Solis. The pirate-turned-privateer had proven herself loyal, earning Kane's trust despite their rocky start. Solis worked tirelessly, sifting through records and interrogating suspects. What she discovered shook everyone to their core. It was Senator Harlow. Confronted with irrefutable evidence, Harlow confessed under duress. His motivations weren't greed or malice, but fear. "I did it to protect Earth," he admitted bitterly. "The Vorath promised to spare us if we handed over the battleship. I thought they'd leave us alone." Kane felt a surge of anger but forced himself to remain composed. "You betrayed your own people, for nothing. The Vorath don't make deals, they consume." Harlow hung his head, defeated. "I see that now, but it's too late indeed." News of the betrayal spread quickly, causing outrage among the crew and allies alike. Some called for Harlow's execution, while others argued for leniency. In the end, Kane made the call. Harlow would be stripped of rank and confined to quarters, until after the war. Justice would have to wait, sacrifices made. With time running out, Kane devised a desperate plan. Intelligence suggested the Vorath's mothership, the heart of their swarm, was located near the galactic rim. Destroying it wouldn't just cripple their forces. It might halt their advance entirely. But reaching the mothership required navigating through heavily defended territory, a suicide mission for most ships. Kane turned to Captain Solis. "We need a distraction, something big enough to draw their attention away from the mothership. Solus nodded grimly. Leave that to me. My fleet will hit their perimeter defenses hard. It'll give you the opening you need. The plan was risky, but there was no alternative. As Solus prepared her fleet for battle, Kane addressed the crew of the Leviathan. Standing before them in the hangar bay, he spoke with raw honesty. This isn't just about Earth anymore, he said, his voice steady. It's about every world, every life the Vorath threatened to destroy. We've lost friends, family, and comrades along the way. But today we fight for something bigger than ourselves. Today we show the galaxy what humanity is capable of. Applause erupted, followed by cheers. For the first time in weeks, the crew felt united, not by fear but by purpose. The cost of victory. The battle began with a ferocious assault by Solus's fleet. Wave after wave of ships charged into enemy lines, drawing fire and creating chaos. The Vorath responded with overwhelming force, swarming the attackers like insects. Explosions lit up the void as ships on both sides were torn apart. Meanwhile, the Leviathan slipped through the carnage undetected, racing toward the mothership. Kane knew they couldn't destroy it from the outside. It had to be taken down from within. He assembled a small strike team, including Dr. Voss and several elite Marines. Together, they boarded a stealth shuttle and launched themselves toward the monstrous vessel. Inside the mothership, the air was thick with tension. Strange insectoid creatures scurried along the walls, tending to machinery that pulsed with an eerie energy. The team moved swiftly, disabling security systems and planting explosives along critical nodes. But as they neared the core, disaster struck. An ambush awaited them. Dozens of Vorath drones descended, forcing the team to fight for their lives. In the chaos, Dr. Voss sacrificed herself, triggering a failsafe that sealed off part of the ship and allowed the rest of the team to reach the core. Go! She shouted, her voice echoing through the comms. Finish this! Kane hesitated, pain flashing across his face. Then with gritted teeth, he pressed on. At the core, Kane activated the final sequence, setting off a chain reaction that would destroy the mothership. As alarms blared and the structure began collapsing around them, the remaining team members raced back to the shuttle. They barely escaped in time, watching from a safe distance as the mothership exploded in a brilliant burst of light. The victory came at a terrible cost. Captain Solus's fleet was decimated and countless lives were lost. Back aboard the Leviathan, Kane stood silently on the bridge, gazing at the wreckage. The Vorath fleet retreated, leaderless and disorganized. Humanity and the galaxy had, though, been saved, but the scars ran deep. Friends and allies were gone, their sacrifices etched into history. And though Earth had proven its strength, Kane couldn't shake the weight of all he had lost. A new dawn as the dust settled. The galaxy looked to Earth with newfound respect. The United Earth Council declared a day of mourning for those who had fallen, vowing to honor their memory by building a better future. Allies pledged support, promising to help rebuild what had been destroyed. Yet even in victory, Kane felt hollow. He wandered the halls of the Leviathan, haunted by the faces of those he'd failed to save. In the observation deck, he found Lieutenant Lynn's old station, untouched since her death. A single datapad lay on the console, displaying a message she had recorded before the final battle. To whoever finds this, it read, know that I believed in us, not because we're perfect, but because we're willing to try. Keep fighting, for Earth, for freedom, and for hope. Kane clenched his fists, tears welling in his eyes. For the first time in months, he allowed himself to feel, to grieve. Then, wiping his face, he straightened and walked away. There was still work to be done. In the distance, the stars shone brightly, a reminder that even in darkness, light could prevail. The galaxy had changed forever, and so had humanity. The galaxy had changed. The destruction of the Vorath mothership marked a turning point. Not just for Earth, but for every species that called the Milky Way home. The once insignificant planet now stood as a beacon of hope and resilience. Yet, peace was fragile and the scars of war ran deep. Humanity's journey wasn't over. It was only beginning. Captain Marcus Kane stood on the bridge of the Leviathan, staring at the stars through the viewport. His battleship was battered, its hull scorched from countless engagements, its systems barely holding together after the final assault on the Vorath. But despite its wounds, it remained a symbol of defiance, a testament to what humanity could achieve when united by purpose. Yet unity was harder to maintain than victory. As the dust settled, old rivalries resurfaced, and new tensions simmered beneath the surface. The Xylothian Empire, humiliated by their earlier defeat, began amassing forces along Earth's borders. Rogue factions, emboldened by chaos, preyed on weaker colonies. And whispers of surviving Vorath clusters reached intelligence channels, hinting at a lingering threat. Kane knew the galaxy wouldn't wait for Earth to recover. If humanity wanted to survive and thrive, they needed to act decisively. Rebuilding trust. Dr. Elena Voss's sacrifice weighed heavily on Kane. Her death had ensured the mission's success, but her absence left a void in both leadership and morale. Without her brilliance, repairing the Leviathan became an uphill battle. Supplies were scarce, and many crew members questioned whether the ship could endure another fight. But help came from unexpected quarters. Ambassador Kaelnor arrived with a fleet of Xeran ships, carrying resources and engineers willing to assist. "You've earned our trust," he told Kane during a somber meeting aboard the battleship. "Let us repay your courage." Kane accepted, the aid reluctantly, knowing alliances required compromise. Still, seeing humans working alongside aliens, former enemies turned comrades, stirred something within him. Perhaps Zara Lynn had been right all along. Hope wasn't just about survival, it was about connection. As repairs progressed, Kane reflected on the lessons learned. Leadership wasn't about commanding obedience, it was about inspiring trust. He spent hours walking the decks of the Leviathan, speaking with crew members, listening to their fears and hopes. Slowly, the fractures began to heal. A new threat emerges. Just as Earth started rebuilding, a chilling discovery shook the coalition. Scout ships reported strange activity near the galactic core, clusters of dormant Vorath drones reactivating under unknown signals. Worse still, these drones appeared to be evolving, adapting to resist previous tactics. "We underestimated them," Kane admitted during a strategy session. "They're not just mindless invaders, they're learning." Lieutenant Commander Rhea Solis, who had assumed command of her remaining fleet, nodded grimly. "If we don't stop them now, they'll return stronger than ever." Kane devised a bold plan. Using data recovered from the destroyed mothership, the team identified a central node controlling the dormant drones. Located deep within a collapsing star system, the node was heavily guarded, but destroying it would sever the Vorath's ability to regenerate. "This is it," Kane said, addressing the coalition leaders. "One last push. If we succeed, the Vorath are finished. If we fail..." He didn't need to finish the sentence. The final assault. The mission was codenamed Eclipse. A combined fleet of human, Xyran, and mercenary ships launched toward the target zone, braving treacherous gravitational fields and relentless drone swarms. The Leviathan led the charge, its damaged engines straining against the odds. Inside the collapsing star system, the team faced horrors beyond imagination. Mutated, Vorath drones attacked with ferocity, their forms twisted into grotesque shapes. Entire ships were torn apart, their crews lost to the void. Yet the coalition pressed on, driven by desperation and determination. Kane led a strike team to infiltrate the central node, navigating labyrinthine corridors filled with traps and terrors. Each step felt like a march toward doom, but Kane refused to falter. Images of those who had sacrificed themselves flashed in his mind. Zara Lynn, Dr. Voss, Captain Solis. Their voices echoed in his thoughts, urging him to keep moving forward. At the heart of the facility, Kane confronted the source of the signal. A massive, pulsating organism connected to thousands of tendrils snaking across the galaxy. It wasn't just a machine. It was alive, feeding on the energy of dying stars. You're beautiful, Kane muttered, awestruck by the alien horror before him. Then, gripping his weapon tightly, he added, "But you're done." With seconds to spare, Kane planted explosives around the creature, triggering a chain reaction that destabilized the entire structure. As alarms blared and the facility began collapsing, the strike team raced back to the extraction point. Explosions rocked the corridors, forcing them to leap over chasms and dodge falling debris. A hero's farewell, back aboard the Leviathan, Kane prepared for the final phase. The fleet had regrouped outside the star system, waiting for the detonation. When the explosion finally occurred, it lit up the void like a supernova, obliterating the central node and severing the Vorath's hold on the galaxy. Cheers erupted throughout the fleet, but Kane allowed himself only a brief moment of relief. The Leviathan was critically damaged, its reactor leaking radiation. There was no time to repair it. Ordering the crew to evacuate, Kane stayed behind to ensure everyone escaped safely. "Sir, you can't do this," Lieutenant Commander Rhea Solis pleaded over the comms. "We need you." Kane smiled faintly. "No, you don't. You've got each other. That's enough." As the last shuttle departed, Kane activated the ship's self-destruct sequence. Standing alone on the bridge, he watched the stars one last time. Memories flooded his mind. His first steps aboard the Leviathan, the sacrifices made along the way, and the hope that had carried them through. "I did my best," he whispered. "That's all anyone can ask." Moments later, the Leviathan exploded in a blaze of glory, its wreckage scattering across the void. The galaxy fell silent, mourning the loss of its greatest defender. Legacy of Hope. In the aftermath, Earth rose as a respected power in the galaxy. The coalition expanded, welcoming new allies eager to build a brighter future. Monuments were erected in honor of those who had fallen, including Captain Marcus Kane. Stories of the Leviathan spread far and wide, inspiring generations to come. Years later, explorers discovered plans for a new battleship hidden among the ruins of Antarctica, the same artifact that had sparked humanity's journey. This time, however, the designs hinted at something greater. A vessel capable of exploring uncharted galaxies, forging connections with distant civilizations, and carrying the torch of hope even farther. As the galaxy looked to the stars, truth became clear. Humanity's story was no longer defined by fear or weakness. It was defined by courage, sacrifice, and an unshakable belief in the possibility of a better tomorrow. And somewhere, amidst the endless expanse of space, the spirit of the Leviathan lived on.